Hey everyone, welcome to Nerdarchy, for nerds by nerds. I'm Nerdarchist Ted, and today I'm joined by
Nerdarchy Dave.
D&D gods. I choose to disbelieve. Jump down the description below where you can sign up for Nerdarchy, the newsletter, get weekly gaming tips, as well as learn how to game with us.
All right, we recently did a video where there was like a little snippet of it, and I feel like that video kind of went crazy just from that snippet that was in there. And that was talking about the atheist in Dungeons and Dragons. So we decided we would maybe look at and explore the idea of atheists and agnostics in a game like Dungeons and Dragons.
All right. Well, we have all of these books, and there's sections for here's the pantheon, here are the gods, and if you go into
Well, your character doesn't have that book though.
true, but what I'm saying is it's widely accepted that there is the divine, there are these greater beings. Not everybody is going to follow them. You might have areas where they're sheltered away. They weren't raised with religion. You have other people who are angry at the gods for whatever reason, but it takes someone different, someone outside the norm, to just say, well, I don't know, or no, they just don't exist.
Well, someone who explains the world through science, even though it's a kind of we're playing a medieval fantasy world, they might choose to say that, well, the idea of divine magic and the gods themselves actually falls outside of the laws of science. So therefore it must not exist. You have to prove it scientifically in order for them to be like, yeah, that's a thing. So I guess one of the first things we should look at is, what is it? What is an atheist and what is an agnostic?
All right, well, I'm gonna pull out the cheat sheet for this one here. So, a agnostic is a person who believes that nothing is known or can be known of the existence or nature of a god or anything beyond material phenomenon. A person who claims neither faith nor disbelief in God. And an atheist is a person who disbelieves or lacks belief in the existence of God or gods. Thank you for Google Dictionary.
So, what are some ways that you can think of for characters to be? I guess we'll just start with one. Pick one, and we'll start with that. With an agnostic.
All right. Well, an agnostic, they say I want proof, and in a world, especially when we have magic and such fantastic things, it is so easy for them to be like, well, that's just one of these other fantastic creatures. The god could literally manifest in front of them, and like, well,
I didn't see him create the world.
I didn't see him create the world. Okay, you have immense power. Well, you know what? That dude over there just summoned lightning from the sky. How is your magic any different? Oh, well, that guy, he polymorphed into a dragon. These things might not be common occurrences in your world, but they're utterly possible. It's within the rule set, it's within the structure of the world. So how does a god prove its divine influence?
And I guess along those veins of what you're speaking of is the fact that this person might just be like, well, it's all just magic to me. Divine, arcane, it doesn't make a difference. It doesn't matter. Can you prove that one is different than the other? You're still just using some unseen force to manipulate the reality essentially.
And when you actually look at the way some of these things cross over, I mean, you have divine sorcerers, you have bards who are technically arcane, but they can get magic from anywhere. You can go into clerical domains where you get access to spells that are on the wizard list. If you go druid, it's technically divine magic. But I mean, you're creating the same kind of effects that wizards do. So to an uneducated person, where's the difference? How can you say one is this and one is that?
I can almost see like this character being a conspiracy theorist, and he's like, oh no, like the powers that be, not as in the gods, but the ruling people have put this in place to control the population, and somewheres they have a cork board with push pins and multicolored yarn attached to it, working this all out.
Yeah, and it's fun and it's interesting, and I guess you could kind of say it's actually really easy to play an agnostic if you're going to go with that viewpoint. If well, I need more proof than whatever it is that you're saying. I can find a way to debunk it and prove that what you're saying or what you're doing just doesn't prove it.
Right. And, and how do you go from, saying this powerful being like a dragon or a demon, to a god? What is the real difference at a certain point? Or a weaker god, like a demigod. When you have like the most powerful dragon and you stand him next to maybe a demigod, is there a real difference in power level? Or an uber powerful demon lord and you stand him next to, a lesser god. Is there really a difference? To me or you, probably not. Like they can both squash me like an ant.
But you compare it to a 20th level adventurer who's possibly taken down all these great and powerful beings. Well, all right, he can.
Am I a god now?
It's like you can see the difference between those two things, but then to the uneducated, it's like, oh my God, you've done all of this. Are you a god?
Yeah.
Do you start attracting followers of your own?
Well, and yeah. Oh, and by the way, I think the conspiracy theorist would be like the atheist. I think that doesn't believe in the gods, and he's the one who's kind of like, it's all just magic to me. Yeah, as far as that goes. So there's ways you could do it, and it could be, but it is really hard to go. Well, I just witnessed a miracle, essentially. How can I say there are no gods?
So, like, let's look harder at the atheist. To say that there are no gods, well, it's sort of like what the agnostic is saying, but it's just like, all right, well, you aren't sure. Well, you know what? I am sure. This
I'm
this
taking a stance.
I'm taking the stance. This thing that presents itself as powerful. Yes, you might have the power to walk through town and annihilate buildings and people with just a thought and a wave of your hand. Well,
So can Elminster.
so he wiggles his finger, and it's as if the sun appeared. To actually quote one of those short stories, and that's just a mortal. He might be a really powerful one, but it is a person who has been born into the world by mortals.
So would you say that maybe in a fantasy world it's actually easier to be an atheist or agnostic, in the sense that like in the real world, right? We don't really witness miracles. We don't see this stuff. Everything has to be taken on faith, right? I'm not particularly religious. Ted is more so, and you'd have to do a lot more to convince me. But you guys go to church and you just take all this stuff on faith, where in the fantasy world, like that kind of stuff happens all the time. Like a god could appear before you, but if you're in an area where it's like high magic, you're like, whatever. Bob the Wizard teleports all the time. I'm kind of used to it. I don't even jump anymore.
So like it really depends upon the world that you're playing in. The higher the magic level of the world, I think the easier it would be to really play, one of these things, because you could just, push it off. If you're playing a serious low level magic where the adventurer who gets to 10th level is considered powerful and ability having the ability to really change the course of the entire world, that then it's going to be a little bit harder, because those people, I think, rely more on faith. But I don't know. What's your thoughts?
A third level spell, fifth level of cast it, you bring people back from the dead. In the real world, if someone brings someone back to the dead, without doing CPR or something like that, and you're like, they're confirmed dead, gone.
And you just whoa.
And they've been so for a minute or so, and you're just like, get over here, and they come back to life. That might change my mind, about religion and things like that, or seeing someone call down a flame strike, or even throw a lightning bolt or something like that. I'd be like, all right, something is going on here. That doesn't happen every day.
Now I have to say I'm a big fan of Penn and Teller and some of the street magic or illusion that people do, and I've seen some pretty darn impressive stuff. I've seen things that I literally question, how on earth did they do that? That's gotta be real magic. And like they tell you straight up, no, it's not. You know, like they're just that good
They're
at.
like, "Are you an idiot, Ted?"
Well, like, no, when you look at it, and I like I said, I've
Yeah,
just seen impressive stuff, and I've watched for okay, how is he slipping? How is he? You know, I'm looking for the tells, but these
yeah.
people are just so good at what they do that they're just not caught. You know, unless you know the trick. But you know, so like but yeah, you see a flame strike, you see a lightning bolt, a fireball that has been conjured by somebody. That's going to be far more telling
A
to.
tree get up, unroot itself, and walk around. You know, things that can happen into a D&D game that that don't happen in the real world. So I feel like in some ways in a D&D game, it's a little bit easier to dismiss the fact that there are gods. I mean, like, listen, I haven't seen a god. I haven't seen them create the world. I haven't seen them spawn a new race. I haven't seen them do anything that I haven't seen, an archmage do before, especially if you're playing in a world where there is a ton of magic.
So it begs the question, what do you guys think? And I'm certain that there's some strong opinions out there. So you know what? Down in the comments below, why don't you share yours? While you're down there, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
Can hang out with us over on Facebook.
So until next time,
Stay
stay nerdy.
nerdy.